Hello and welcome everybody. We have such a special day today. Welcome, I'm Lorene from Crafting Possibilities. Next to me we've got Matthew Balaji Kuhn from Sound of the Kuhn and Brooke Hadland from Intuitive Focus. Hello and welcome, guys. How are you all?
Hey, yeah, good. In stereo.
Yeah, I know, it's cool, isn't it? I'm so excited for this show tonight, guys. It's been one that has been brewing away for me for quite some time, actually way before I knew either of you two. I was actually very lucky to be a virtual administration assistant to a lady who did a similar conversation many years ago, and it is something that has sort of chugged away at the back of my mind going, you know what, I'd really like to have my own version of that. And so when I created this podcast, this was very much up there as one of the things that I wished to bring through to a wider audience than what I was part of back then. And also I'm not afraid to speak now, which is a great thing. So just as a brief introduction to those of you who do not know, Balaji is also known as Matthew Kuhn. Balaji is his spiritual name, and that is the name he goes under when he's doing his Sound of the Kuhn business, healings, the way that he functions with the world and the healing perspective. So Matthew is also my partner and my playmate in this 10 seconds. We'll see how this podcast goes.
I'm sure he'll be on his best behaviour.
Not me, don't worry about.
And next to him we have, so obviously Sound of the Kuhn, Matthew does sound healings, and he's also a Reiki master, and he does lots of other yummy things. So welcome, Matthew. And next to him, we've got Brooke, who is also an excellent healer. He has multiple podcasts that he plays with and enjoys creating. And he is a psychic reader, and he uses spiritual tools. He creates spiritual tools for protection and all sorts of yummy stuff there. He can talk a little bit about that maybe towards the end. And he has also done one of his incredible healing sessions with me, which was one of my first experiences in a very long time of having received a healing session from someone who is actually a divine masculine man. And it was just such a relief for me as someone who has had to be very strong in her masculine side for a very long time, to be able to just allow that to relax and drop down so that Brooke could just do what he could do, and perform his magic with me, was just such a beautiful moment for me. And I've had very similar experiences now with Matthew as well. So welcome to both of you. Thank you so much for coming to play today.
Thank you for having me on.
I've always wanted two guys at once. good way to make everybody uncomfortable, Lorene.
One to do the cooking and one to do the dishes, I bet.
Exactly. So, first question off the bat is, I have a question we'll start with Matthew. So what does being divine masculine mean to you?
Okay. I'm just going to read something out because it was shown to me a while ago, and it just felt so comfortable with me. I know it might not be everyone's cup of tea, but so here we go. We'll see what we get. So a woman's highest calling is to lead a man to his soul, so as to unite him with Source. A man's highest calling is to protect the woman, so she is free to walk the earth unharmed. And that really resonated with me. So that's how I feel my role as a divine masculine man, or masculine energy, is to hold the space. It's not a matter of less than, the feminine or whatever's weak, or it's nothing to do with that. For me, the sacred masculine is to hold the space so that the divine feminine can just do her magic. She is creation. She is the magic and the stars in the sky, and so that's how I feel about it. I don't know what else I can really say about that. But like I said, it's not a judgment. It's not a more or less or anything else. That's just how I feel. That's sacred masculine's duty, is to hold the sacred space and hold the ground so sacred feminine can just create the magic.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Just doing a couple of hellos. We got Leanne, hi, and Christian, hello, and Mila, hi. And I'm sure Mila's like there going, what did Lorene say? Hi, Cindy. Well, you'd have to watch the start of the show to find out. So along with that, like, perhaps, Brooke, maybe you can answer the question from your perspective of what does divine masculine mean to you?
To me, I guess it's just, as Matthew said, there's space to be held and there's space to be balanced. But to me, it's just stepping up and making sure that all bases are covered. If there's any lack, being that support, but at the same time, not being dominant, but taking charge where there's a need. Just getting it done and making sure that it's taken care of. Okay, regardless of my thoughts or my feelings at the time. When the divine masculine and the divine feminine are working together, it's like a team. And so if there's any lack, if there's support needed, or just if I see something, it's just time to step up and take charge. And it's not about overwalking over people. It's just like, to me, it's just what you do. It's just what you do. And absolutely the protector. You got to be the protector, and that's it. You can't be, timid. When you got to be soft and supple when you need to be, but at the same time, when you need to stand up for the rights, you need to take charge and you need to lead. And to me, the divine masculine is about not waiting for someone to ask. Sometimes you've just got to do it. It's being that independent, that just taking the lead without taking the lead. Just so many things you could go with that, but it's just absolute support.
And that's what I was trying to say. It's not a lesser than. It's not people, because people have that the old ways of thinking still when we talk about this. So if we say feminine masculine, they always say, oh, you're saying the female's weaker, and it's nothing to do with that whatsoever. And that's just old ways of thinking, the way we've been programmed negatively about these things. As I've had conversations with Lorene, I have a beautiful 15-year-old daughter, and I would wish to have her to have every opportunity as any other boy or whatever. You know what I mean? So it's nothing about gender or weaker and lesser than. And can I just add a quick story? I was telling Lorene this story the other day. So when I first started doing spiritual stuff 18 years ago, one of my biggest influences, I did my Reiki Masters and a lot of stuff with Trish Stevens from Keys of Change. And I remember in class one day, she was saying, she goes, "You're like the bloody rooster, Matthew. You're out there walking out front in charge of making sure all the hens are safe." And she sort of explained herself. So I gave her a bit of a funny look. And then I realized what I was doing is, so when we'd have lunch breaks and that, we'd walk down to the shops, and we were doing a lot of courses in Unley at the time. And I would always be walking onto the side of the road and have all the girls to the right of me. It was just, and then walking sort of naturally, just a little bit. It was just a natural protect. I didn't even realize I was doing it until it was pointed out to me, but in a good way. You know, again, it wasn't a less than. It was that natural, as a strong masculine male. It was that natural inbuilt protection in me to naturally do that. And again, and not just for females, for anyone, you know. Sorry.
I found that when I was with ladies in town, I'd always take point closest to the darkest corner. Do you know what I mean? I'll be the first one to make sure that I was the first one to cross that threshold. So if there's anything around the corner, I just thought that it was just the right thing to do. Yeah. And always sleep closest to the door.
That's how you can get out first.
Yeah, true. Settle on that, man. Protection.
Doesn't work the same in my house. He has to sleep on the other side because my house. So what I so coming from the more feminine side, but also someone who has had to have her masculine side really high for the majority of my life, my masculine has been very, very high. I totally agree with you guys. It is about that protection. It's about holding space. It's about, having everything in order and being ready to jump should you be required to. And it's about very much the space of right now. That's how I sort of see the masculine energies are working with the what's happening right now in this moment. It's not so much about future planning. To me, that's the more feminine side. And so it's like when we've got a lot of right now energies happening, it makes it very difficult to balance that out. But we'll talk more about that in a moment. So we've sort of touched on this a little bit anyway, but as a divine masculine man, and I have a story to tell once you guys have had a little bit of a chat about this one, is what do you view your role as in relationship? So we sort of talked a little bit about that, but I'd like to just expand on that just a little bit. So if you're actually in a relationship with someone, how do you view your role? So Brooke, if we could start with you, it's like you've already sort of touched on that a little bit about, you don't have to be asked to do anything. It's like if you see it needs to be done, go fucking do it. Don't sit back and wait for the woman to say, hey, can you go and do blah, blah, blah. So what else would you add to that just to expand it out? And hi, hang on, let me just jump back up while you think about that. Hi, Holly. Hi, Angelita. Hi, Starthy. Hi, Christy. Hi, Cindy, just in case. What if they come in the window? Good point. What if they do come in the window?
Well, one thing would be creating that that space, that emotional space where she can be honest, she can be open without feeling stepped on emotionally, being able to listen and allow the partner, if you're whatever you're into, so they can express themselves. Just and not taking, being able to listen and without them feeling safe to express themselves without judgment, without fear, without recall, which is hard because a lot of people haven't dealt with the baggage and stuff like that. And I think one thing for me was getting getting in touch with the divine feminine and just understanding my emotions and dealing with that and bringing myself back into balance has helped me to understand the whole course of doing that. Because it's, you know, it's all balance at the end of the day. But yeah, I mean, we can go down and especially like lately, like I was in a relationship over a year ago, and they were really strong, and it was hard to a really strong woman that was in her masculine, and to me, I didn't know if I was stepping on her toes or what to do. It just really threw me off, and it made it really hard. And I didn't know which way was up, you know, and that was very confusing for me, especially the way, you know, the world, how it has trained us in the last 20 years or so. Because my mother was a very strong feminist, and it's you know, I can understand how a lot of blokes are really confused right now, just to trying to understand is, you know, what is our role, what do we have to do, what's crossing the line, when do we stand up? It can be very confusing with a lot of mixed messages this day and age, and it's a hard one to wean out. I mean, I'm no expert. I mean, I know nothing at the end of the day.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and I will say more on that in a moment. Matthew, what's your thoughts?
Here we go, down the rabbit hole. I agree with Brooke. Like, you know, I feel it's weird because we were programmed in certain ways, you know, from childhood, and it's now completely opposite to what it is now. So the divine masculine is still carries on from what I was saying before. You know, in a relationship, it's just to be there to hold that space. It's strange in traditional relationships these days how that works, but I guess everything is to be in balance. We have problems when things are out of balance, so we're more feminine or we're more masculine, and that goes for any of the genders. I don't know if I want to go down the rabbit hole just now, but me and Lorene have had this conversation. So I am a very big believer in women's rights and equality as a whole. So nothing should be decided because of gender, but that also should be then also include age, race, you know. So it's, but definitely I believe in women's liberation going back to the 50s and 60s and 70s, where women were portrayed as less than, should stay at home. Do I believe in feminism? Hell no, because there is a lot of reasons why. But I do believe that women are equal to men. We're different. Men are logical, women are emotional. And that's the same with the masculine and feminine. And so I see the roles. But for me, feminism is a dirty word because the way it was brought in the early 60s and what it was designed to do, it was designed to create negativity. It was designed to create conflict.
Separation.
And it was designed to create separation, anger, and all that we are lovingly, peacefully fighting against now. So feminism, no. Equal rights, no one's better than the other, you know, definitely. You know, like I said, I have a 15-year-old daughter, and she's a magical child, and I wish her every opportunity in life to do what she wants to do with no bars hold because she's a female. So there's a big hell no to that.
Yeah, I was raised by. I spent most of my life with my mum and my sister when I grew up. So pretty much I was the bloke, and it's hard as a 11-year-old trying to protect against, you know, adults. But you know, we're going to do what we're going to do.
And, sorry, can I just jump back in again quickly, just so I haven't upset any of my female friends? And as Lorene will attest, you know, it's not about who's your role, that role, equal or lesser, you know. But as a kid growing up, I was brought up to, when mum was working, I'd come home from school. If I didn't have the fire going and if I didn't have vegetables peeled in the saucepan cooking, I'd get my butt kicked from mum. So, you know, and doing the dishes and mopping floors, vacuuming carpet, sweeping floors, etc. You know, that's not a female's role. That's anybody's role. So this is why we got to get away from that other side of things, because it went from here and it's gone way out of balance to the other side. So sorry, I'll have my cup of tea now.
And it's not hard when you get that in, because I've been married and divorced. That was for other reasons. But
that's because you didn't do the dishes.
You know, I mean, there's such an issue with the housework, but it's not hard to work out. You just separate. You get a list, you write a list, pick your rooms, pick your job roles, and go. And if the other one needs help, you give them help. It's not rocket science.
And for me, I always looked at, you know, if we're both working, then and we're both living in the house together, then we've both got an equal share of responsibility for making sure that it's clean and tidy.
Yep.
And that's how I've held it forever, because that's how I was raised. You know, if my dad came from the Navy background, and so he had that point of view, if you see something that is requiring to be done, do it. Don't wait for somebody to ask you to do it. Go do it. You know, if you see that the floor needs a sweep, go sweep the floor. You know, he was very much of the opinion that you've got eyes, you can notice, you've got arms and legs, you can do it, you know. And that was, you know, from the age of 4 years old, we were making our own beds, and if we didn't do it to Navy standard, there was big trouble. You know, so I've come from that kind of background, and I do agree a bit with Kirsty there. She was saying that feminism seems to have pushed some women into masculine roles, you know, and that to me, I see that as very, very true. Very true. It has pushed us in that way. And there's been some really interesting things going on, you know, where there's a lot more divorce. And, you know, when I was young, I was one of the maybe 2 kids. And when I was primary school, nobody around me had ever been divorced. I was the only kid from a family that was divorced. Then by the time I got to my second to last year at high school, I only met one other kid that had been from a family of divorce. And so that was, you know, for the first 17 years of my life, I only knew one other kid from a divorced family. And that to me says quite a lot actually about how this feminism type of thing has created such a big shift in society. So I completely agree with you both around the feminism side of things. And I also agree with Christy. It's like it has, because of the divorce rate, mums have had to then take on, because quite often they were given the kids this, you know, majority custody of the kids. So then they had to do mum and dad roles together. So they had no choice but to do that, you know. But what that taught their kids, so people like me, was that we had to do that too.
Yep.
Which then obviously for our generation, for blokes like you guys that are coming through, you're like going, well, hang on a minute, where's my role? Where's my place in all of this? And you don't have one, because we're filling it up for ourselves.
That's it. I've changed my fair share of nappies.
Me too.
I can't believe that when blokes go, yeah, I can't do it because it makes me vomit. And it's like, it does everyone, get over it. You know, but we do have to step up, you know, when that happens. You just have to step up to the plate. If it's the feminine coming into the masculine or the masculine coming into the feminine, we just need to cover all bases regardless. And, you know, and it's, you know, it's really about bringing that teamwork and having that communication without judgment.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You know, as a bloke, being able to say something without getting, are you saying I'm a bad mother? You know.
Something that I would just like to bring forward as in this conversation about the role of both is there was a moment there that I had with you, Brooke, that was going back probably 2.5 months ago now. And I was feeling a little bit wonky, and I was feeling a little bit out of it, and I just required some company and stuff. And I knew that you were preparing for your show, one of the expos.
Yep.
You're doing some woodworking stuff, and I'd been doing renovations and things like that. So I was all mucky in that from that. And I asked, would you like some help? And you go, yeah. So I toddled on over.
Free labor, not a problem.
But the thing that really, and we had that moment where I walked in and I said, how can I help? What can I do? And you were just like, well, can you do this? And I'm like, yes. And so you gave me a little bit of guidance. You held the space for me. You gave me a little bit of guidance about what you required. And because I was choosing to be more in my feminine at that time, I was just like, sure. And I just followed your guidance. I followed exactly what you required me to do. Now, the difference in that moment between then and what I would have been, say, 6 months beforehand would have been, I would have tried to go, yeah, but what about this? And how about we do it this way? And I would have been questioning you a lot more about, is it actually the best way to do it? Because I was still more so in my masculine at that time. So I would have been, quote unquote, trying to take over. So,
well, I'm not a perfectionist. I'm just like,
no.
I'll get something and I'll get right into it. Then I'm like, let's just get it done.
Yeah,
that'll do.
So it was one of those moments where I really felt that massive shift in balance within me, for me to be able to ask you if I could come over in that sort of more tender moment to do something to assist you, to support you in what you were creating, and also to have you be open to having me there and creating with you. And to have you not feeling all like protective of your creation as such either, so much so that you're just like, okay, here's some sort of brief instructions, go to it, and it made me feel so good, and it made me feel so loved. And from obviously a friendship point of view, and there was that moment where I was rubbing on the stain, and I just looked at you and I went, I'm gonna have a real girly moment right now. You're like, what's up? And I was just like,
I'll make you coffee.
And I was just like, thank you so much for having me here, because it's restored my faith in being able to work with a man on a project, because I had some really sort of semi-traumatic moments over the past few years where that hadn't been the case.
Yep.
And to me, that was a really beautiful example of you being in your divine masculine, holding space for me to come and be able to contribute to you. Which to me is part of my role as a divine feminine, is being able to contribute to us both, to be that nurturing and caring and creative force. And that's what it felt like.
And it's like that. I mean, I've done that before, and you can obsess about the little things, and and then just create that resistance and conflict. It's like, at the end of the day, I keep saying to people, everyone's like, oh, I'm worried about this. It's just stuff. Oh, yeah, but I'm going through all the it's just stuff, and it's always going to be there. So why can't we just get along and just, harmoniously just take care of it?
Sorry, just reading Angelita's
Plus, you know more about home renos than I do. No, I just dodge it up. Yeah, there you go. A couple of screws, she'll be right.
You had it all perfect. You had it all perfect. Angelita would say, if I'm asking if you need help, I'm definitely going to listen to your instructions. I'll never try to take over. I go with the energy. Beautiful. Beautiful. That would make you a really good teammate. I tend to be a leader in team situations. And that's because I've been in my masculine for so long, except for when I'm with other women who are either a little bit more balanced or also in their masculine, then we also work really, really well together.
Well, it's hard knowing when to, winning to take charge and winning to back off. That we're going to be mindful of that, and we've got to learn that. It doesn't, because we've been programmed so many ways, and both sexes have been gone from, this wounding, then that wounding, and this wounding. Everyone's just scattered, barely knows their job role. And it's, it's really about bringing that harmony back into things. And it's not really hard when you think about it. When you get out of yourself, when you step out of your own ego and just go, okay, let's just, how can we do it? How can we get the job done?
And I like what Angelita said about, going with the energy, feeling the energy. There's no specific roles. And the thing is, you're going to have the days where your energy is going to be different, and especially in relationships. So it's learning, it's just really learning that give and take and communication. I've never been the best communicator in the world because I wasn't standing in my own power and in my own masculinity. And with Lorene, she's helping me with that because I have to be. Because she is a dominant force. So if I'm not standing in my power, bang, I'll get railroaded over. So that's a good lesson. But it's communication, and I'm learning to tell Lorene when, if I'm feeling a bit out of whack or whatever, because we're all going to have those days. Our energies will be up or they'll be down. What's happening in life, circumstances, etc. So that was basically just to finish off that the roles and the relationships. It really is communication and give and take and going with the energy, because there's days where I'll just get up and I'll do bang, bang, bang. And there'll be days where I'm feeling a bit or my energy's down a bit, then I'll sit back and relax a bit more. And then Lorene will tell me, can you help me with this or do this? And that's fine, because, we're not always in the same state or small place of mind. So, yeah.
And you're like, but the cricket's on. I was reckon yesterday the cricket's on today.
See, this is me standing in my divine masculinity. When the cricket's on, the cricket's on. I'm watching or listening to the cricket.
Not another bloody test match. They go for days. But see, that's the really, even with the masculine, is, there is times, I believe, when the feminine has to, it's their job to step into the masculine and swap roles. Because if the masculine's going through, if you're going through a bad day, or you're down about something, it's being having that space where you're not going to be judged, you're just going to be supported, and they're going to create the space. Because we can't let things linger and linger. That will create friction. But sometimes you need to have those days where you can, as a bloke, that you can openly be honest, and if you need to have a cry, you need to have a cry. I have my moments, but I'm not one to tear up. But as the divine masculine too needs that divine feminine to step up sometimes and hold the space so it can do its job, or go into repair mode and go into recharge mode while something's happening. So it works both ways. We both have to have that aspect of that feminine and the masculine when it's required to be harmonious. It's very important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I completely agree, and it's that's touching on to the next question, which is, what do you view the divine feminine role to be, in relationship. And when I'm talking relationship, I'm not just talking about romantic relationships. I'm talking about friendships and work relationships and, all those types of relationships that we can have. It's like, this is why this is such a beautiful space for me, because obviously I've got my delicious other here, but I've also got a lovely, beautiful man who's also a very good friend, and to me, you're both divine masculine men. And, manly men doing manly things sometimes, like watching the cricket or going out for a big hoon in your car or whatever it is. That's obviously, as Stuffy said earlier, don't get the male and masculine confused or like talk about them as the same thing. And he's absolutely correct there.
I was out. Well, that's it. I was out near the beach yesterday, and my brother's like, we're in his four-wheel drive, and it's like, oh man, we should go down the beach on the four-wheel drive. And I'm like, no man, twin turbo. I just want to do donuts, and the sand doesn't deserve that.
I love it. Oh, I love it. So just checking that we're keeping up with the chat here, because it's the nice busy chat tonight, which is lovely. Thank you everybody for coming in. Emma was saying that she's finding that she's just sort of letting go and taking the back seat a little bit more, which is nice. Doesn't have to have everything, doing everything herself, which is really lovely. And that it feels nice not taking of the energy.
Well, even with kids, it's important to, lead by example, and even show the kids, because if you know how the dynamics transfer, because that's how the kids learn, is they learn by watching us. So it's really, really important to get that down too. But at the end of the day, everyone needs to be capable and balanced of both.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Yeah.
But I don't see chivalry's not dead. I love chivalry.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's one of the things I love. I have a little thing that's on my mirror. I don't know if Matt's seen it. And it talks basically about chivalry. And it's like, it's not saying that the woman is weak. It's not like if he opens doors for her or pulls out a chair or, holds the umbrella or whatever. It's not saying that she's weak in any way, shape or form. It's showing that she deserves respect. And she deserves the respect of the man looking up for her. Or words to that effect. And it's just like, I required to hear that. And that's why it's on my mirror, because it was like, I was so used to doing all those things for myself because I was so high in my masculine that there was no space for a divine masculine man to come into my world, So I spent nearly 2.5 years bringing up my feminine so that I could actually have space for someone like Matthew to come into my world who is a masculine man. And because otherwise his job role was already fulfilled. I don't know how many times over my years of being in relationships, romantic relationships, where the guy has said, I don't know how to do anything for you because I don't know that I'm doing it to your standard. And I don't know if I'm doing it, like, even if I can do anything for you because you've already done it yourself. You just can't help yourself. You just go and do everything.
It's quite confusing. Because you get, when someone's too out of balance in one field, it's like they can get offended. Like, oh, what are you saying? I can't do it. And I'm like, no, I was just trying to help. And that can be quite conflicting, quite kind of counterproductive. But at the same time, I guess it's really important. It's been so confusing the last few years, and I think they've deliberately tried to mess it up to separate the people in general. And it's not just I'm not just men and women. I mean, even people in same-sex relationships have the same problem. With those boundaries, and can be very confusing unless you work it out yourself.
Yeah.
And it's and it's all about, like, talking about chivalry and that. I think it's a step further, even further than that, because I like holding the door open for anyone, especially the elderly, because they grew up with that. So, and to me, it just comes down to good manners, politeness. When you're at the Woolworths with the checkout persons, it's, I mean, they're trained to, hello, how's your day going? So I try and take it a next step further. I go out of my way and over the top to be, oh yeah, my day's great. Yeah, how you going? And you watch their energy change, and you watch, what's going on? Instead of just doing, and because of the way, and you only have to sit there and observe, like I like observing, of how people treat them, and people at service and restaurants and all that. So I go out of my way to be not over the top, but just to accentuate, be polite, and through Reiki and say, Shem, I'll send them symbols and love and stuff, and then you just watch. You can actually make their day, change their lives, change their day. And it's a cool thing to do. So I love holding doors and stuff. I was going to go on comment.
Do you know what makes it easier?
What's that?
Being present in the moment. Just makes it so much easier. It really is the key to everything, regardless. But it's a lot easier when you're present, to see those things, to see those opportunities, to see what can be done, to see what doesn't need to be done. But just as I say, like with people's wounding and what we've been taught in the world, is everyone has to get out of that over defensiveness and allow room and allow space for people to make those mistakes and to express.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's what's happened with the last 30, 40 years with TV, radio, and newspapers, mainstream media. They've just pumped so much fear into the world that everyone is fearful. Everyone puts up their little barrier and just wants their little protective space. And I'm so grateful for Lorene coming into my life now. And this, what she's taught me about expanding out. I've been doing this shit for a long time. But I'm always open and willing to learn, and I think you have to be. But yeah, expanding out just is really, is a cool thing, and it's really changing the way I'm doing things. So,
for those of you who have no bloody idea what Matthew is talking about, that's all right, because I just realized that we have a mixed audience here. So basically, it's an energetic tool where you take your awareness, because we are aware of a lot of things all the time, and it is a part of our natural functioning, part of our body, our spirit, our being, if you like. And so what we do is we expand out our awareness beyond just our body, beyond even the room, beyond even the town you're in, beyond the country you're in, beyond the planet, beyond the solar system and the galaxies and the universes, and then expand out even further if you're willing to go beyond the lifetimes, dimensions, realities, and non-realities. And then what you do is you get your allowance, which is basically being able to be aware of everything from no point of view. And you expand that out beyond the room that you're in, beyond the house, beyond the town or country, beyond the planet, beyond the solar system, beyond the galaxies, beyond the universes, beyond the lifetimes, dimensions, realities, and non-realities, and then beyond your awareness. So by doing that, what you're doing is you're actually allowing yourself to be the space to be present in the moment. And so you can see the truth of everything. You can see the lies, you can see the truth, you can see everything, but you do it from the space of no point of view, which means that you're not then in reaction mode, you're in response mode. And that's a completely different space to be in. There we go.
Well, see, that's a good point. Is we've been so used to being in that defensive mode, and everyone being challenged, and that's what that's what the system does. Is it's one of the reasons why it tries to imbalance, and then the feminism, and then stepping on the masculinism, and stepping on the feminism. It just keeps everyone in reaction mode, and it's just like throwing a spanner in the works of us trying to be us and come together. Very tricky.
Yeah. Emma, I talk more about those sorts of tools and stuff on my Friday show, on my reading show. So if you want to tune into that one, you'll probably find out that there'll be more about that there. So that's at 8:00 Adelaide time. So just having a quick look, and I agree with Cindy. It definitely comes down to communication. We're going to talk a little bit more about that a little bit later on. Angelita also has been told, I've heard I can't offer you anything. That's a really, really good sign that your masculine is too high, because the male just doesn't know what job to fulfill. He has no job in your world. He cannot see a place for him. It's kind of like, if you're somebody who's wishing to have a relationship and you've got 2 bedside tables, but you've got stuff in both bedside tables, there's no space for the man there. You've got to create space for him. And that includes in your energy fields. So this is where allowing that feminine to just come up that little bit, to make the masculine come down that little bit, then what do you know? You've got space. You've got a space for a masculine man, not a feminine man. Because the thing is, if you've got your masculine up to the same or higher than your feminine, you'll find that you'll be attracting feminine men who are wanting to be taken care of, who are want you to hold the space for them, that want you to fix all their problems for them, that want you to take responsibility for everything that they do or don't do. And those are the types of men that you'll be attracting. So that's why this is an important conversation to be having right now. So just carrying on with what Cindy was saying about communication. So from your guys' point of view, what is the best way to respond when there is a difference of opinion in a relationship?
Yes, dear.
Was it happy wife?
Yeah.
I think with the communication is feeling the energy of it. You know, there's some times where if it's getting to the stage where you just can feel it's just going to be an argument or a fight, you know, sometimes it is just best to walk away. Look, I'll come back. I'll talk to you in 5 minutes. I feel blah, 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 whatever. And from someone who used to bottle up and didn't express it until I just go, blah, very, very key. So communication, and if you feel that it is going to get to the stage where this is going to be a big fight, nothing's going to be achieved by that. It's only going to cause more division and more resentment. So you both better just to walk away for 5 minutes and come back. Go take a few deep breaths, go listen to a couple of songs, go scream in your pillow, whatever you need to do, and then come back and address the issue, because there's obviously an issue there, a perceived one or not. It could be just an energy imbalance, and through the energy imbalance, we've gone blah, 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 blah. So yeah, I think that's key from, you know, and I'm blessed, lucky. No, not even lucky. I've been single most of my adult life. So apart from being married and a couple of relationships, I've had these arguments with myself. So it's been a one-sided argument. But I feel very strongly that from my limited experience is, just if it gets to that stage where you feel it's going to go over the top, fucking walk away. Just walk away before things get said that can't be taken back or can't be undone easily. Better off just to walk away.
Well, I would have to say foundation. You got those lines of communication, and what we tend to do is if we're not open and honest from the start and build the relationship that way, okay, then when we get a curveball, it's going to take it by surprise. So the more we can be open and honest about our feelings and how we express ourselves and how we feel, then there's always that. Then you've built that foundation of space to to be open and honest and have those conversations. But when we just, as I say, just mucking around, when we go, yes, dear, yes, dear, yes, dear, and then we go, no, dear, she's going to go like, what? You know, I mean, it works both ways. It works both ways. So just building that open, having that open communication to start with, because when we just keep the other one happy all the time, well, basically that's a form of manipulation. Okay, and we've got to break down all the walls and the garbage about that, and keep it real and bring it back to not only keep it real, but start it off as something real, and just But when you just, I saw this one guy and. It was basically, how blokes can be on their best behaviour for a while, and then it gets to the stage of the relationship like, no, okay, that's enough work. Yeah, that's it, hook, line, and sinker. And then they just go back to their old silly ways. We could have
3 months, so I hear.
3 months.
3 months. Mm-hmm.
When the honeymoon period comes off, but it's about just really building that foundation of communication to start with, and I think it's important to find someone that you can do that with. I'm on all levels, friendships, people really respond, open right up to you when you can bring that to the table straight away. I mean, I'm always meeting new people, and I'm like surprised at some of the stuff that they tell me. I'm like, why are you telling me this? But obviously I create that space where I can be open and genuine and honest, and they feel safe to do so. So you can have that conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the from my traumatic experiences that has cropped up in relation to if there is a difference of opinion, for me, I agree communication is so fucking important. And if the person who is feeling like, I can't quite, like, there's a lot here and I'm just not quite ready I can't quite verbalize how I'm feeling right now. If they say, I require to just have a bit of a breather, we'll come back. And if, give me 5-10 minutes, half an hour, 2 hours, whatever the fuck, I don't care. It's just, I require a little bit of time. If they actually verbally say that, I'm cool with that. But if they just get up and walk out and don't say anything in the middle of a discussion, that sets off almost like I don't want to say PTSD, but it triggers me. Because I came from the previous relationship to Matt was a relationship with a boy man, somebody who was a bit too much in his feminine and was just not grown up. And so we would have a discussion, but it would come out that he would always feel attacked, even if it wasn't that way. And so he'd stomp off, he would slam doors, he would, go and sulk on his belly for a couple of hours on his bed or storm out of the house, slam some more doors, not talk to me for 2 days. So that for me was what I had lived with for about 3.5 years. So for me, having someone who just gets up and walks out in the middle of a conversation makes me go, and I had to comprehend for myself that not everybody is going to be like that. It's so important for the other person to say to me, hey, just give me 5. Well,
that's like, I keep getting, when I do the psychic reading shows, I keep, when my partner, I mean, I make psychic defense pouches. I make a love pouch, and I can make them strong, right? And I can say, people are like, oh, but I want someone. So I can make you a pouch that will bring people in for you. But if you haven't dealt with your stuff, if you don't know yourself, these conflicts and resistance and issues is what's going to be coming up, and this is the baggage that you're bringing into the relationship, and it's going to put a strain. It's going to put a strain, and people are going to start recognizing that. And it's like anything. But I feel sometimes too is it's like anything, like true love, like inner peace, anything really, unless you can find it in yourself and know it for yourself. You don't know what it looks like. And so if you find it externally, it's going to be a fluke. because you don't know what you're looking for until you find it within yourself.
What's that old saying in that you can't love anyone else until you love yourself? You've got to do the inner work. Most definitely agree, 150%.
Did you catch that, Brooke? Angelina, she said that's why I still haven't asked for a love pouch. She's still working on me.
Oh yeah, they'll just be coming in for lessons. That's all right. That can be a bit of fun. It's better to bring this stuff up and deal with it than
Oh, absolutely, and that goes both ways. Both the man and the woman, both the divine masculine, divine feminine. To me, it doesn't really become the divine masculine and divine feminine till you're willing to and actively taking responsibility for your own growth and your own healing and your own journey. Until you're willing to and actively doing that work, it's not divine masculine and divine feminine. You're still sitting in male female.
Yeah. And
it's so important to take that responsibility and to realize that you are 110% responsible for absolutely everything that has come up in your life. Everything. The good, the bad, the ugly, and the awesome. And until you're willing to take that level of responsibility for all of you, you're going to sit in the blame game. You're going to sit in the anger. You're going to sit in all of the rage, the fury, the disappointment, the distrust, just all the stuff that'll keep you so fucking preoccupied and not progressing forward in your life and thinking that everybody else has got it better than me and all that sort of stuff. And it will not serve you. It's like the very first step is taking responsibility.
That's another reflection of, sadly, of today's modern society. What's being pushed in the schools. Well, I don't even like using the term schools. They're just training grounds. Anyway, I won't go there either.
Save that topic for another day.
Because that's the
training grounds for smartphone users.
But no one's taught. No one's taught to take responsibility. It's someone else's fault. And in the end, we every single friggin' soul on this planet is an amazing human being. And if people started, I don't fully understand it myself. I never professed to be any expert or guru, but just my understanding, if people started realizing how powerful and how magnificent we really are, you can change your life. You'll change your life.
One thing that really helped me understand my divine masculine was actually getting in contact with my divine feminine and having a look at that and learning what was it about and finding it. And then what I realized is, like hunting down emotions. Okay, why am I feeling like this? And then going into that emotion and tracing that back and finding out where the wounding was or why I felt that way. And usually that'll come up as triggers. But just trying to get in contact with a divine feminine to bring that balance in, and that really helped me to understand the masculine a lot more.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. There was a moment that cropped up for me probably a couple of weeks ago where I felt quite triggered, but I didn't quite know why. And so I was chatting with another incredible facilitator about it, and I just said to her, hey, can you ask me some questions around this area? And what it was to do with money. And what I discovered through our bit of processing time was that I had picked up a point of view from my mum and her mum, my grandmother, that about men who are and it didn't really matter whether man was earning more or not. It didn't really seem to matter, because I know that this energy has floated through my world in just about every single bloody relationship. And it was around men and money, and how there's just this level of resentment in regards to men and money. And if there's any wonks or anything to do with men and plus money, men plus money equals resentment. and it didn't matter in any way, shape, or form.
That's just the wounding of the masculine. As there is wounding with the feminine.
Yeah, and I was just like going, oh my goodness. So I had to get rid of this point of view that wasn't even mine. It was something that I'd actually picked up from my mother and her mother. And it was just like, what the fuck? Okay, get rid of that. And suddenly it was like all of this money stuff that was hurting my heart just disappeared. And I was just like, wow. And suddenly, like, my business started to grow even more, and my relationship with Matt was even greater, and just everything felt so much lighter because I got rid of a point of view that wasn't even fucking mine.
Oh, that's cool. See, like, I don't mind sugar mamas. Yeah, I don't mind being a sugar daddy. I'm easy.
I quite like the idea of being a co-creator.
That's exciting.
And, you know, and that is exciting because when you co-create, that expansiates, you know, instead of you doing this or you doing that and then we join it. But when you co-create, that is awesome and powerful. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, it's like the sum of the whole far outweighs the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have 2 draft horses, they can pull about 4 ton singularly, but you put them together and they'll do like 11 ton.
Well,
Yeah.
when I was, this is pre-COVID, when I was doing a lot more workshops and sound bars and with my drumming and what I do, I always used to use that analogy a lot. You know, I could say, you know, if you had 10 people plotted around the country or the world, whatever, drumming at the same time for peace and putting energy into the planet, you know, awesome. You get those 10 people together in the same space and create together, it's just so much more powerful. So much
Absolutely.
more powerful.
Yeah, and I see, for me, in my, you know, the desired relationship, if you like, as in romantic relationship, in regards to money, seeing as we are talking about those sorts of relationships today too, is that I see it as more of a dance, you know, where sometimes she might be earning more or he might be earning more. It doesn't matter though, because it's all about the co-creation of both and how you're choosing to then consciously use that money to grow, shift, change, expand, whatever you're choosing to move towards together, whether that be on the exact same project or individual projects. It doesn't really matter as long as it's all creating more for the whole.
Mm-hmm.
And you haven't got one person being a big drain on the money situation because they're being selfish or self-centered or something like that. Or, you know, if you've got somebody who's not choosing to grow, shift, change, and expand, and all they're doing is they've reached a point and then that's where they stop. And then they put a lot of blocks and barriers in the way to creating more, the other person creating more, then we've got a money problem. And money is actually one of the ways that will show you very quickly where there's issues in your relationship. So the question is, what do you guys think around money in relationships?
Don't when you're in a relationship, don't be the only one with a coffee app, coffee drive-through app on your phone.
Well, again, it's breaking down the old paradigms, isn't it? You know, it's no longer the man goes out to work and then the little woman stays home in the kitchen and, you know, cooks dinner. Yeah, and I think, but there's also with that you also need some separation. So if you're both working or whatever, co-creating, then I feel that you have a joint account or a place that you both put into. But there's also, and I like the tithing, the church of you, where you put money aside for yourself, you know, 10%. And I love that tithing. And I come across the tithing years ago with Shanti Mission. And then thanks to Lorene and reading a book that she's lent me, come back to me about the tithing of putting away 10% of all your income. I mean, how you split that up in couples and relationships is obviously different, but I still think you have to have your own. Like I have to have the freedom. Sorry, not have to have. I require to have the freedom to walk around and knowing I've got a couple $100 in my wallet or whatever, and knowing that if I require something, then I can go and get it. I don't have to ask Lorene for permission or my partner for permission, depending what it is, of course. So I think there has to be that freedom and a bit of balance there. But certainly with bigger items and things like that, you have to just communicate. But I think we all require our own little bit of pocket change. But then when you're in a partnership or co-creating that, then you have a joint account that you both put in, and probably equally, I guess, or whatever. And again, if someone is maybe putting in more money, then the other person is doing some admin towards the thing. You know what I mean? Just the energy doesn't always have to be money. Just balancing that energy out.
Oh yeah, like the barter system. I always used to barter with housework.
I'll do the dishes for $20.
I'll do the dishes if you hang out the clothes and do that room over there. Yeah. You always got to barter. It's fun.
I find doing the dishes is meditational for me. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Me too. Dishes. I love that he loves doing dishes too.
Dishes are easy.
It's quite good actually, because I don't mind cooking, and it's knowing that Matt's going to do the dishes. It's like, oh yeah, I'm more than happy to cook. Even if I've been out doing renos all day or whatever, it's like it's easy for me to come home and just cook something quick and basic. I
always found that when you're cooking is the perfect time to clean and do the dishes anyway, because you're there and you got stuff on the stove and it's just perfect timing.
Luckily, I don't generally make huge amounts of dishes when I'm cooking, because most of our meals are pretty simple anyway, so it makes it easy. Just going to catch some of these comments back here. So we've got, yes, Amanda, you have missed a jolly good show. You'll have to go back and watch the rest of it because it's been a really interesting show. Jeanette said that breath work has changed her life. So that's wonderful, Jeanette. That's pretty cool. Emma has said that the fear of losing her independence and not wanting to share her space is preventing her from moving on into a new relationship. So she'll just enjoy her own company for now. What I would say to that, Emma...
You're using both bedside tables, aren't you, Emma?
Yeah, exactly.
No, Emma.
You don't have to give up your independence. You don't have to give up your space to be in relationship with another person. I know of plenty of people who are in relationship and still several years down the track still have their own homes that they live in. And that tends to happen with people over 50, just as a hint, because they don't feel like they actually wish to clean up the other person's dirty socks or whatever. Like there's that point of view that if I'm sharing, like from a woman's point of view, if I'm sharing space with a man, then suddenly I'm going to be responsible for not only my shit, but his shit as well. Again, it's about the type of person you're bringing into the relationship.
Works both ways.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, she says that. I don't want to be responsible.
Pick up your socks and your dirty undies.
Just wear them again the next day.
Just flip them around again and then inside out, and then, or just don't wear any.
Hey, Kate, can I teach? Can I just jump in quickly?
Teach.
I just wanted to reach out to, was it Jeanette Anderson about the breath work? Yeah, I drum. I've been drumming for over 6 years at Boffa, Breath of Fresh Air, work out of once a month in Unley. So, and from someone who goes and drums, and I've been taking my rain stick and my medicine drum as well as my Mother Earth drum. Yeah, it's amazing to see the people, what they go through while they're doing the breath work. And then when we have the feedback, and not out of ego, but I always love hearing when people say, yeah, and the drumming just took me to whole new levels and that, because I'm very passionate about my drumming and everything I do with the sound work. But it's so great when we can be open enough and combined, the drumming with things like the breath work and boffer. And just by the way, I'll be drumming with boffer on the 14th of September for the September get together. Thanks. Thanks, Teach.
You're welcome. I'm also just enjoying the chat as well as you're talking, because Jeanette thought that with your background there that you lived in Sweden.
Oh, did she? No.
It would have said ABBA if he lived in Sweden, wouldn't it?
Oh dear. Cindy enjoys ironing, meditation for me. I spent many hours ironing when I was a teenager because I found it the same thing. I was this crazy teenager that would go over to all my friends' houses and say to their mums, have you got any ironing for me to do? Because I was the same. It was a way for me to escape. I felt like, and because nobody really enjoyed doing ironing, so I felt I was getting brownie points. So I was getting these words of affirmation that I was hungry for as well. And it made me feel good. It made me feel good to be of service to other people, especially the adults that were around me. And it sort of made sure that they would be happy with me coming over to visit their kids, because they knew that they'd get some ironing done.
Who's coming over? That weird ironing girl.
Yeah, she can come.
After 10.5 years in the army, ironing uniforms nearly every day, I was happy not to iron. once I got out of the army.
I don't iron so much anymore because I just have clothes that don't require ironing for the same reason.
That's where a tumble dry is good, and you just fold them up nicely, and keeps the creases out fairly well.
Yeah,
but a well-ironed shirt is lovely to wear.
Oh,
it is.
They hang so nice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I still got a few shirts and blouses that do require ironing, and I feel exactly the same when I put them on for that first time. Just makes you stand up a little bit taller, and it just feels lovely. Just Angelita, she was saying that her ex used money as his power over her, and that pushed her to handle money more carefully. Still a work in progress. I think, just briefly, I totally get that, but from a little bit of a different point of view, and I'd like to discuss probably more in depth with these two lovely gentlemen around money and relationships and stuff. So so just seeing Cindy saying, yep, I do other people's ironing. Love it. We'll just send all our ironing to you. There you go. So from I can kind of so my first marriage, I ended up with somebody who was at the end of our marriage but diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, who was a narcissist and also had gaslighting tendencies. So it was a very wonderful combination of aspects in a person. And one of the things that happened was he was really, really good at spending money and really, really good at making me responsible for his spending and trying to figure out how to make it all work. And then he would go, and because he was a salesman as well, retail sales, and so he would go and put things on like hire purchase and put them against my name because I had the better credit rating, and then ask me to figure out, not even ask, but just expect me to figure out how to pay for everything. And we almost went bankrupt twice in our 7.5-year relationship. So when we split up, we had been reduced down to the one joint account. And I was at that point so traumatized by everything. I felt guilty for spending $5 on myself. There was no savings. There was no careful money management really from his part. And I was in a space of just constantly having to stress about money and how it was handled. So has made me very, very cautious about how money is handled within a relationship these days. I'm more than happy to be the person that pays the bills, and I'm more than happy to run like a joint account as such, and to have that, because just to save fees and all that sort of thing, I'm happy to have that as part of, my accounts. But there is no way in hell I would ever say ever again that a joint account is the only account that we have as a couple, to only have that one account. It will always be separate accounts with a joint account for the household bills that we both contribute to. And that's part of my trauma. That's part of my learnings, or if you like, from that first marriage. So,
and that's what I was saying. You have to have that at joint account, and that's like you said. That's where the joint bills get paid. Your utilities, your rent, whatever your arrangement is, or mortgage and things. But and then I feel it's still important that you have to have your own, especially if you're working, that you have money for yourself. Again, just even if it's the little things, but just to know that if you require something, you can go and get it. A new laptop, for example, or just anything. There's no no strict control, or like you said, gaslighting or anything over that. It's just I mean, whatever works for the relationship, but you have to have. You require your own. And it's for your own peace of mind. It's your own, again, working with the energy of the money and finances and stuff like that. Because I've just come from a place where, I won't go too much in my personal details, but anyway, sorry. Over to Brooke while he's telling his topic. I've already said it.
No, you guys did it.
I'm just rehashing what I've already said.
It's just a conversation. It's part of that foundation of that conversation that you have to have.
And I just didn't want to have,
Yep, I think Christy said it the best. Freedom to be you.
Yeah.
I think I'd like to talk about that a little bit more for you guys as men. So if you're the man who is earning all the money, okay, because maybe your partner is at home and looking after bubbas, would you, as the man, would you give the woman an allowance as such to go, look, this is your play money. You have this, and you talk about it, and you have an agreed amount that, shit's, I don't know how much, I don't know, $50, $100, whatever a week. And that's your play money. You do whatever the fuck you want with it. Would you agree to that sort of thing? Or how do you sort of see the possibility of that sort of situation going, where she's literally not earning any money, but she's looking after the kids?
Yeah, well, you'd have to do that. Pay the bills, divide the rest, or sit down and budget.
Again, it's not the 1950s where the man worked, the woman stayed home, and she had to ask the husband for everything. And from someone who has been married and has a child, and has seen how much work goes in, and it doesn't matter whether it's, and this goes both ways as well. It doesn't matter whether it's, I've known stay-home dads, so whether and the partner, the female, goes out to work. So it works both ways. So staying home and taking care of the house and the child is bloody hard work. So of course that person deserves money, and the other person, the other partner, can't turn around and say, "Oh, I'm doing the, I've got the job." Blah blah blah. That's bullshit. That's old ways of thinking, and it's not relevant in today's life. So yes, that other person, whether it be the mother or whoever, deserves a little slice of the pie, to have that freedom to go and have brunch with the girls, or go and buy some clothes, or whatever.
Have that conversation and work it out based on each other, both people's skills and work it out. What's going to work? Just work it out. What's going to create more?
Yeah, I agree. I think the conversations that are the hardest to have at the beginning of any relationship is one of them is, when was your last sexual health check? That's probably the first one that's pretty difficult to have for a lot of people, not for me, because I just go, when was your last sexual health check? Because it's important to me, because my health is important to me, There's also the fact I use my awareness too to just sort of figure that for myself. But if I didn't have that skill, I would be saying, right, before we do anything, off you go have a swab, go have a blood test, blah, blah, blah. Where you go, and I want to see the results. Thank you. Because it's important to me, right? But also it's the conversation around money. Money is one of the hardest conversations that most people deal with in relationship, because money and debt are two of the areas that people feel the most shame if they're not handling them well, And I've known people who they appear to be doing really, really well, but they're freaking debt up to their eyeballs and they're struggling every single day. And it's like, until they actually come together and again take responsibility for all of their stuff, and then maybe get some training or meet up with somebody who is more experienced in dealing with those sorts of things and money management and all that sort of stuff, they won't ever really choose to openly talk about it. It's like it's an addiction, really. To spending is an addiction, and it can be. And again, you're looking at what is it covering up. So I think that might be a conversation for a deeper conversation for another chat with us, maybe next month, around addictions and stuff. Yeah.
Done them all.
Yeah. So Amanda said she felt guilty for spending $5 with my ex-husband. I felt guilty for spending $5 with my ex-husband because he was all about saving for the future instead of enjoying moments. I feel into it. It took it because I was the at-home mother and he worked. But once I started working, I felt it was my right to spend what I wanted on what I needed. And then later on, I thought he wouldn't have made as much money if I wasn't at home looking after our 3 children. Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? There's that weird balance between the mum staying at home to look after the kids versus putting them into childcare. And it's like, because if you put them into childcare, obviously that costs. But does the cost of putting into childcare, especially if you've got, say 3 kids or something, does the cost of putting those kids into childcare actually balance out the money side of it, of her going out and actually earning money? Like, or does she come home at the end of the day and 98%, 99% of her pay has actually just gone on childcare?
Yeah. That's
that's
I think you could spend an hour on that topic alone, because that can go down to things of, because not everyone has the same instincts, motherly instincts or whatever. So there are going to be the ones, and this isn't a judgment thing, this is an observation of, someone who's lived 50 years in this life. They don't want to be stuck at home. They love their kids and everything, but even though they might not be bringing much extra income, the fact that they get to go out, work, have workmates, socialise, and have a life instead of just being stuck at home. Again, it's not that they don't love their kids or anything, but that's what they require in their life. They can't just stay at home and be a stay-at-home mum. And again, that's not a judgment call. It's not a right or a wrong call. It's just is, because we're all different and we all have different wishes and requirements. That's a big topic.
Well, yeah. And at the same time, just the person that goes to work, because they get out of the house every day and go to work, doesn't mean that they have a life either.
No.
It's just, another discussion to have. But that communication, that foundation of communication, it needs to be there on all these subjects. I mean, we can, go into the ins and outs, but you've got to have that foundation. And so, for one, if you're going to go and just build a relationship on attraction and initial chemistry, don't complain when it goes south if you haven't built that foundation.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. Having that conversation, this is actually something that a friend of mine, who's a friend now, always has really been a friend, but he actually was my second husband. Him and I are good friends now, and it took a while to get there. But we always were good friends. We were just a good team as friends. And then we kind of fell into marriage and then kind of didn't work out. But anyhow, that is what it is. But we were having a conversation around dating back before Matthew and I got together. And it was that conversation of, why is it taboo when you are first getting to know someone to talk about the hard stuff? Because it's like, at our age, I can't be bothered pandering around to someone to then eventually figure out, oh shit, like we've got totally different ideas around money or relationships or sex or whatever, living situations or independence or jobs or religion or sport or, religious preferences or whatever. It's just like there's a lot of those topics that if you listen to anybody who's in the relationship dating game, they'll say, oh no, you can't talk about those things at the beginning. You can't talk about that within the first 3 months because you're just supposed to enjoy it, have fun, and blah blah blah. But it's like, yeah. See, Jeanette agrees with me. She gets it. So what's your guys' thoughts? Like, do you actually wish to have those deeper conversations early on or not?
What about starting to get to know one another? Build a relationship first and then worry about the next level of relationship if you want to go there. Get to know someone first without going, oh, there's a bit of cake I want to eat, like what is dating? It's just getting to know someone. People have to rush it. They have to make it based on we have to get together. Why can't you just get to know someone? Be human. See where things go. Maybe you'll just have a great friendship. Maybe it'll develop to something else. But I think too much time we get into expectations on these things. And we've got to just sit back and start being a bit more balanced about that sort of thing.
I mean, I think, if I agree, at least for a few weeks, I'm sure it would come up before 3 months, because what else are you talking about? You can't just keep talking about the sunsets at the beach. But I wouldn't be throwing anything too heavy in the first couple of weeks, you know what I mean? Because like Brooke said, you just, you want to see if you want to have more coffee with that person, or so yeah.
I don't know. You can always throw out the deal breakers and see what happens.
Yeah. See?
But I just don't think it needs to be within the first couple of weeks anyway.
It depends how much time you got to live. I got 3 weeks to live. I'm not just. You got 2 days to wow me.
Oh dear. Alrighty. So, as my very last question before we wrap this all up, I'd like to know, as a strong masculine man, how do you balance your masculine and feminine energies? We have sort of touched on this a wee bit throughout the show, and I'd like to know from your points of views, how do you balance that out for yourselves?
For me, it was I had to learn first what divine feminine, masculine, what what's the word I'm after. Like with the divine feminine, it's a creative, and it's also the emotional. So from someone who was a butcher, slaughterman, 10 years in the army, worked in the wine industry, male, it was, yeah. So my heart chakra was very closed off, and I grew up in the country, South Australia, in the country, in the days where men didn't cry. Toughen up. Wipe your eyes, princess. Whatever. Men didn't cry, and I've had to teach myself that, and it was through lovely teachers when I first started down the spiritual path many years ago now that held the space for me and allowed me to cry, because I was doing courses and stuff, and I'd just start bawling my eyes out because there was other things at play, of course, but they were, because my heart chakra was so closed off. I had all sorts of beings and entities and good people opening up my heart chakra, and I just had moments of just pure blah. I didn't understand it, so I was, again, not lucky because I don't believe in luck. I was blessed that I was with the right people, the right teachers that could explain to me and hold the space for me and allow me to let that shit out. And that's what's beautiful about crying, is letting go. It's so healing and so releasing. So for me, if I'm really starting to feel a bit blocked and a bit down, I'll go watch something that I know is going to make me cry. And I have certain movies. I'll go watch The Way, about the Caminos that have walked in Spain. That movie makes me cry every single time I watch it. So if I feel that I'm getting really and I need a good cry, I'll go watch that movie to actually make myself cry. And being creative, so I love doing my mandalas and getting my book out and getting my pencils out and just creating stuff. No one else has to see it, but I just love using colour and creating mandalas. My version of mandalas. So it's that creative and it's that emotional, and that's and allowing that to be, and not allowing anyone else to say, "Oh, you can't cry," or "You can't do this," or "You can't do that," because that's blocking the divine feminine and that. So that's what I do.
I love it.
With myself, it starts by being brutally honest and knowing yourself. Okay, nothing to hide. You've got to get in contact. You do have to get in contact with your emotions. You can't let them run rampant. It's about bringing yourself. To me, it's about bringing that balance. Is just being 100% off, 100% truthful to yourself, and wanting to be better at being yourself. It's about getting yourself right, and then you can't avoid it. If you avoid it, stuff will come up, triggers will come up, but it's about being brutally honest without judgment, and it's something that you've got to do for yourself. You can't get the other person to do it in a relationship. Okay, you got to do it for yourself, and be honest. Trust me, if you get one thing wrong, you can always ask them. They'll be like, "Oh, I wasn't going to say it," but as long as you've got that support. But it's something that we've just by seeking the truth and knowing yourself, it's unavoidable.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And it was the same for me. I had to allow myself to feel, because my masculine was so high. And I was a lot like what Matt was saying at the beginning of the show about, it wasn't so, it didn't really feel like I was bottling things up, because I was talking about stuff, but at the same time, there was still, I would talk about the top 5%, but then the rest of it was sitting under here like a big, huge sludge that I wasn't talking about. And I remember the first time that I had a conversation with a gentleman who floated around. He was just there for a little bit after that long-term relationship, the last one. The very first time I had to say anything to him, which is where I was really diving into my vulnerability, I was so shit scared to even say anything that I was like, I have to say something. And I couldn't look him in the eyes. And all he did was he just held space. He just held me calmly and let me slowly get my words out. And it was like, that was such a healing moment for me, because I was finally able to realize that it was okay to express myself.
Yep.
And it was like, that was after 18 months of doing a lot of divine feminine work. And I was finally able to actually express myself properly. And it was such a beautiful moment. And it will be imprinted with me for a long time of like, I never wish to be in that spot ever again where I feel like I can't speak. Because that's not okay. And if I'm with someone who makes me feel like that, then that's not okay. That means there's something really wrong in the relationship. So I really appreciate the fact that both of you guys have done a lot of work already on developing and getting in touch with your divine feminine, because you make me feel loved, nurtured, like you hold space for me and my friend, as a friend and as a partner in this crazy life that we have, and experiencing this world together. And so I'm incredibly grateful to both of you beautiful men for being in my life and being a part of this development and of me and my experience in the world, and showing me that it is actually possible to not only have divine masculine men as friends but also lovers, and to enjoy being together and sharing space and sharing ideas and growing, shifting and changing together, and that we can all do that together. So from the biggest part of my heart, to you both and to these beautiful people who have watched our show tonight and into the future, I know that you two have been a huge inspiration for them too. So thank you both for choosing to be with me today.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I'll see you later.
You're in the kitchen, aren't you?
Like 2 seconds.
Is the kettle on?
We'll be in a second.
Oh dear. So just quickly catch up on a couple of these little things on the side there. I can't Oh, Christian. He's laughing. Jeanette says thank you to us all. You're welcome. Thank you everybody for coming and choosing to play. Now, just in case anybody wishes to get to have a one-on-one session with myself or with Matt or with Brooke, all of our contacts are down in the show notes. So, if you wish to have healing sessions with either of these two beautiful men, Matthew does incredible sound healings and Brooke does some really lovely intuitive readings and healings online as well. Please get in touch with them, okay?
Just book through my website.
Book through the website and message Matt if you wish to have a session with him or me.
And I'm also doing tarot readings now.
Yes, you are doing tarot readings now. It's pretty good, actually. All right. Thank you, everybody. So, of course, I'll be back on Friday for Find You Fridays for my reading show. Brooke, when's your next one? Is that tomorrow?
Thursday.
Too many shows. Thursday, what time?
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
Adelaide time.
Same. Cool bananas.
Christian's just added Matthew Kuhn did absolutely amazing work because I've done a healing for Christian. So
yes, see, and Matthew, you've got the Queen of Wands this weekend, yes?
Yeah, I'm at Blackwood, the Queen of Wands Psychic Fair, offering my drum sound healings and also mini tarot, 15 1 question, 2 question tarot readings. for a bit of intuition, intuitive guidance. So I'll be, Blackwood, I think it's 10 till 4.
Sounds about right. So yeah, there we go, people. That's how you can get in touch with us or keep tabs on us for the next few days. Have a beautiful one out there, everybody. Enjoy. Be brave. Be you.
Be you.
Oh,
Yeah,
be brave.
exactly.
Be you. That's what I was trying to get out. Blah, 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 blah. And until next time, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye, people.